Hi, day 4 of self-care through acupuncture, acupressure. Wow, the reception of people loving the information and using the information and asking questions about how to self-care, how to self-treat through this really difficult time has been mind-blowing, and I feel so blessed right now to be part of helping in some way that's not on the front line. It's about being support staff and being part of a team to help each other out. So here's for me, with my 20 years of knowledge, giving it to you and hoping that you can utilize it to the best of your ability and to stay safe and to stay well and to stay healthy. So I was really thinking, where am I going to go today and what am I going to talk about? And a question came up yesterday on my Facebook page from someone that asked about their gut and how they have been having a lot of problems with their digestion since all of this has been going on. And our digestive system is super, super sensitive. And, in our modern world, when we have so much access to so many different types of foods and supplements to help digest those foods, we have missed the opportunity to connect what you actually put in your mouth to how it's nurturing your body. And I think about our bodies as very much being like a Ferrari, right? Like the fastest, coolest car out there. And the question becomes are you gonna put low octane gas, high octane gas, or are you gonna really screw it up and put diesel into an engine that is not a diesel engine? These are the choices that we make. So I wanted to touch on, this thing that people talk about. It's called the gut microbiome. And it's really fascinating. A lot of you may not really understand what it is, but it's something to understand, really, because it has a direct correlation to our immune system. And right now, our immune system is in high necessity. We need to have a really strong immune system to fight this silent, looming virus that is kind of, coming in, and before we know it, before next week, we're going to know someone personal that's been affected by this. So the gut microbiome is home to 100 or more trillion different species of bacteria and single cell organisms that actually help us. They help us to digest and create enzymatic activity for the foods that we take in. And what I find fascinating about the gut microbiome is that it's very unique to us personally. It's almost like an internal fingerprint. So like my fingerprint is unique to me, my gut microbiome is unique to me as well. And this is where I get a little crazy when everyone's doing, the same kind of dieting. Well, it might be fine to do in the short term, but you don't know what the next person's microbiome is and whether or not they're going to be able to tolerate the foods that you're suggesting to them. So in Chinese medicine and Chinese dietary theory, we talk about all the different tastes and how important it is to balance them. Sweet, salty, pungent, bitter, arid, all of those tastes are important because they affect our organs in different ways. So I, wanted to really touch on that idea of the microbiome and also about this gut-brain connection, right? The gut-brain connection is an important conversation piece that goes on below the surface that we're not necessarily aware of. But I guarantee that you are aware of the fact that when you hear something, you might say, oh, God, that just made me sick to my stomach. Or you might be in a really kind of happy situation and say, oh my God, I have butterflies in my stomach, right? So those are moments that your gut and your brain are connecting to each other. So this is no different, right? Yesterday I touched on what are the thoughts in your mind? What are you constantly thinking about? And how is that affecting your internal organ system? Well, one of the most important organ systems that it does affect is your gut, right? We talked about the autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, which controls the fight or flight response. Well, the flip side of that is the rest and the digest response. So remember when you were a kid and you ate a big lunch and your mom or your dad said, don't run around now, don't get in a pool now. The reason why is because the blood has to go to your belly to help to digest the foods that you just ate, right? The blood can't go to your muscle system to move you around and to power you up so you could run around and play, so you're gonna wind up with cramping. So here's the situation. If you stay and if you chew and digest all the negative stuff that's coming out of our media right now, you are going to let that ferment and sit in your gut. And what happens when things ferment and sit and compost and have no way of moving? They stay stuck and stagnant. What happens? Bloating, nausea, discomfort. You have that energy that moves upward, you want to vomit. You have too much energy moving downward, and you might have diarrhea. You might be constipated, bloated. You might have just this feeling of sick, like stickiness in your system. So the nervous system of the gut-brain connection is called the enteric nervous system. And what's fascinating here is that it's like these two thin layers of, over 100 million nerve cells. So we actually call our gut the little brain. And that to me is just so fascinating. So our gut and our brain constantly communicate with each other. So if our tummy and our belly is upset, it's going to tell the brain, hey, we're not digesting well down here. Remember, we were talking about serotonin yesterday. That gets down-regulated too. So your gut health is important for your brain health. There was a book way back 20, 30 years ago called Potatoes Not Prozac, right? So it's really being informative about the foods that you eat and how they affect your psycho-emotional state. You eat too much sugar. Listen, we're home right now in quarantine. How many of you are eating chips and salty things? And I mean, listen, baking cookies has gone crazy. I even baked chocolate chip cookies last week because I saw somebody on Instagram do it. And I was like, oh, I need to jump on the cookie bandwagon. At least I'm still exercising. But the point is here, watch what goes in your mouth and watch what goes on in your brain and how that affects your gut health. So the point that I'm going to choose today is the 12th point on the conception vessel channel, CV12. It's the front, we call the front the front meeting point. It's where all the energy converges on the abdomen. It's the front point of the stomach. And this particular point is really good for dissipating any of the energy that's stuck inside and that gut-brain connection. So here we go. You're gonna find your belly button, you're gonna find the base of that breastbone, you're gonna come halfway and you're gonna feel around. And this particular area, particularly on me right now, is very sensitive. So where you find areas of sensitivity, you wanna mobilize it out. Get some energy in there. You might wanna go cross fiber, you might wanna come up and down, you might wanna pull apart. Again, you can do a little bit of tapping. You wanna move that energy out of the system. Now the funny part is that once you start to get that energy to flow and move, don't be surprised. You might burp, you might, have a little flatulence. You might hear a little grumbling in your belly, But the more that you can mobilize that area, the less congestion you're gonna feel in that abdomen and belly. So here's to another educational seminar on bridging the gap between Eastern and Western medicine and how cool they both are to communicate with each other. So happy Tuesday. Get to that CV channel, get to that stomach moo point. It's that middle cavity. Break up some of that stagnation. And please watch what you're eating. No excessive sweetness and the overthinking. They're both not good for you. Happy Tuesday.